Today's guest is Charlotte Ma, who is a physiotherapist and coach who is passionate about helping professionals to escape overwhelm and fall in love with their careers and lives again, and to do all of this without changing jobs, losing income, or sacrificing work-life balance. So, Charlotte, thank you very much for being on. How are you doing today?
Thanks so much for having me. I'm doing well. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. Usually, nobody really asks the host, but there we go. Thank you
How
for
rude.
that. That's okay. This is not a plug for any future people to be like, "Oh, how are you?" Because to get extra brownie points. But thank you for asking. Anyway, I'd love for you to add anything to that bio if you feel like it's relevant to just give us context on, who you are, what you do. Kind of floor is yours for that.
I guess I would say the thing that I like most about both working as a physiotherapist as well as a coach is being able to support people. And I've taken more of the direction going into neurology, whether that's functional neurology and assessing your vestibular system, your visual system, the cerebellum, or with neurosomatic tools to help create a place where someone can go from a stress response to a more calm state. And those are the things that I would love to incorporate more into my coaching, but the coaching is pretty new. And it's been an interesting transition to feel really excited about doing something, yet not necessarily have the avenue to pursue it in a huge way yet.
Beautiful. So we had spoken in different formats before you kind of got on to here today. We had gone back and forth with regards to like, okay, well, what do you think might be kind of standing in your way? And certain imposter syndrome things came up for you. This whole idea that like I've invested a lot into building up my skills to actually build up this business, but it hasn't really like I can't really show what I know because it hasn't materialized in that way. And then before we started diving into things today, you were saying, well, even going through the assessment to like, come on here, it's like, well, I think this like idea of playing small seems to be kind of a through line between all of these. So why don't you kind of tell me how are you experiencing that, and then we can take it from there.
I guess it's been a lifelong theme. And maybe that's why I asked how you were doing too. Like, there's definitely an aspect of people pleasing to my personality, wanting to achieve things and prove myself by doing that. And the idea that, like, having gone through school and a master's program to get a degree, it makes me feel more legitimate in my role as a physiotherapist. Whereas a coach, anyone can become a coach and market themselves accordingly, whether or not they're good. And in that respect, I have no idea, is what I have to offer even going to help people? I have so little experience in the actual coaching realm, even though I do know a lot of things. And it brings me into that place of imposter syndrome, like, ugh, I can't tell people widely what I'm doing because what if they don't think I'm experienced enough? I'm not qualified enough. I haven't had enough client sessions under my belt, whatever the case may be.
So all of those thoughts that you mentioned right now, like all of those kind of judgments by other people, how many people have actually said any of those things to you?
Zero people.
Right.
Actually, that is a lie. At the beginning of my physio career, somebody told me that exact thing. However, not as a coach.
Hmm. So whatever. Even in your physio career, how many people have you treated in your physio career?
Ooh, probably thousands by now. I don't know.
Okay.
It's been almost
So
11 years.
out of thousands and then thousands of sessions with them, but that one person, when I started, said this one thing. And therefore, now I doubt my whole existence and everything that I've invested in and everything that I know in my head. So, is it actually the people that are the fearful thing, or are all of these judgments actually just prejudgments about yourself from yourself?
Oh, they're definitely from myself about myself. Yeah.
Right.
Nobody has said those things to me. They're just the survival fears. Like, it's easier to not put myself out there than it would be to potentially risk people saying these things.
Hmm. And that's playing out 110% true because you're actually not risking that.
Yes.
So, in many ways, you're getting exactly what you ultimately want, which is to stay safe.
Right. It is a great self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yep. So, whenever I'm looking at things like this or working with clients, kind of the primary lens through which I'm viewing their progress and their situation is through identity. So my
Hmm.
working definition of identity is everything that you think, feel, and act. Okay, that is basically a reflection of who you are.
Hmm.
And everything that you are experiencing, including your results, are a direct reflection of who you are. Right. So I've used this example before. I'm going to use it here just for illustrative purposes again. But if I asked you, like, are you a thief? What would be your answer?
I wonder if this is a trick question. I'm gonna say no.
Well, I hope it's not a trick question because this is going to be a
Like,
totally
am I a
different
thief of my own
kind of
time,
podcast
my
here.
own potential? Maybe.
Right.
Am I
Okay. Fair enough. Right.
am I
But like,
stealing things from stores? No.
okay. So you don't shoplift. That's not who you are. No.
No.
Okay. Similarly, do you have to work at not shoplifting?
No.
Okay. So you don't have to meditate and visualize and journal that, like, today I'm not going to shoplift.
It has not become a problem for me thus
Right.
far. No.
So not shoplifting, being an honest person, not stealing is a simple reflection of who you are. You don't even have to do anything. You don't have to think about who you are. There's no
Mhm.
gap in that. It's just simply you exist.
Right.
And because it is a positive reflection of your identity, you get the positive benefits of it. Now,
Mm.
if we contrast that to your coaching, I have to psych myself up to do certain things. I have to combat all of these thoughts around why I should not play big. I have to invest in credibility because I can, it's like, how
Mhm.
much work do you have to do to compensate for the fact that your identity is one that's completely misaligned with whatever being a successful coach means to you, right? Because, like, I don't have to do any work to not shoplift, but I have to do a tremendous amount of work to do even the minimal of things around being a successful coach.
Mhm.
So before I go on, what lands with that?
Oh, it just reminds me of creating alignment between your unconscious and your conscious mind, because at a value or identity level, you're right. I don't think I'm a shoplifter, so I don't really have to think about whether or not to steal things. Whereas for this coaching, there's a lot like deep down, I know I can do it consciously, but at an unconscious level, there's this feeling that it's not true. So
Correct.
there's always that inner turmoil or the push-pull.
Correct. And right now, the dominant force is the subconscious one because you can just look around the results and be like,
Mhm.
well, that's clearly what's winning out. Just like, again, I can look at your shoplifting history and be like, well, subconsciously, there's actually no misalignment there. Both your conscious, I'm like, I'm not a thief, and I don't shoplift, perfect reflection of the results you're experiencing. I don't go to jail, I don't have drama around this, etc. Right?
Yep.
Perfect reflection of the lack of results you're getting in your coaching as well.
Mhm.
Okay. So your identity essentially never lies. Why? Because we can just strictly look at your results and we can look at your actions because they are the most direct lagging reflections of essentially
Mhm.
who you are. Okay. So again, before I go on, what lands with that?
Oh, it totally lands with the NLP. What are they called? Basically the principles, which is your results give you information about what you're focusing on. So when you change your focus, you change your results. And I will say actually that I've been going out of my way to make the business and the meeting people and collaborating more of a priority, and it's become way more fun. And there have been a lot of people who want to do things together and set up events. And so I do think that when I focus on what it is that I want, which is to be able to help other people and do it again collaboratively, it is making a difference and a shift in the way that I want. So that's definitely creating more solidity around that concept for me.
So is that a reflection of which actions are more associated with the results you want, or is that actually a reflection of this is who I am and I do this consistently and to full intensity?
I think for that one, it's easier because I do think part of my identity is somebody who likes to connect with people and collaborate and build relationships. Whereas when I look at it through a business lens, I'm like, ugh, that is selling. And I don't want to sell to people, but I would like to help them and build relationships with them.
Perfect. And how many relationships have you taken to the bank?
Hmm, I guess a handful.
Okay, great. And why not continue that then? Like if that's working and this is part of who I am and I like to make relationships and these relationships have been fruitful, yet I
Mhm.
also hate to sell. So where is then the gap between, well, I have everything I need to make the business, why am I not making it, and that?
Part of it is the fear that if I were to try to sell to people, even when I think I could help them, they're going to somehow think that I'm trying to take advantage of them or sell them a service. And that's the only reason why I'm interested in being their friend or building this relationship in the first place.
Okay. So selling equals taking advantage of.
Sometimes.
Okay. So do you see how that is also reflected in your results?
Absolutely. There's a lot of money, beliefs, and junk here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now we have this whole, a lot of my actions around playing small. I'm
Mhm.
happy to build relationships, and if they somehow accidentally, maybe possibly lead to sales, great, especially if I didn't have to ask anybody to
That's
like
right.
possibly buy something, like that would be amazing.
Mhm.
Okay. Because selling is taking advantage of them, but if they ask me, then I'm totally okay. So there's a whole meekness around talking about the great things you do. Okay.
Mhm.
So it kind of goes back to again, everything is rooted in this identity of playing small. So again, what lands for you with all that?
I would agree that, yeah, there's a meekness. If somebody were to ask me, can you help me? Can I work with you? I would say, yeah, for sure. If I could see that they might need help and I could see that they had tried lots of different things that weren't necessarily making a huge difference, I might refer them to someone else that I know who does a similar thing instead of offering to do it myself.
Okay. So not only are you actively playing small, but you're actively talking yourself out of being able to help more people.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Great productive use of all of your relationship building time
Right.
so that you can just pass them off to somebody else who can also help them. So in terms of your own like efficiency, is that something that you think is the best use of your time?
No.
Okay. So I know that you have a lot of awareness around all of this stuff, right? And we established that even when we talked prior to you coming on here. So, what do you think is the block for you to like overcome all of this?
I know. I've thought about this. I thought it came down to a core belief around I'm not worthy, whether that's just a general statement, I'm not worthy of success, I'm not worthy of attention, I'm not worthy of whatever. But I've worked through some of it. I think it has made some difference, but I'm still not quite there. I think part of it is around the money beliefs and patterns that I have, and those have been pretty long-standing, deeply rooted things, generational for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of my my worth or my value being based on some kind of tangible thing like finances rather than how I feel or how much time I have in the day or whether I can pursue the things that I want to in my life.
So what do you mean by that last one?
Like, I am plugging away and continuing to take the suggestions that people make to me about how to create a successful business. And I think that the internal work hasn't quite caught up with what I'm doing and stretching my comfort zone in terms of the marketing and the social media. And it definitely takes a lot of my headspace on a regular basis to do this.
So like you're continuing to invest in more knowledge.
Sure, for sure.
Okay. So if I told you I know how to drive a car, and my ability
Mhm.
to drive a car is that I can drive it on a parking lot, would you say that I know how to drive a car?
Technically,
Okay. So explain to me why technically.
to me, being able to drive a car, I'll give you an example. I went to Iceland and the only car we could rent was a standard transmission, and I didn't know how to drive it. So I learned how to drive it in a parking lot. And that's the
Mhm.
only place where I drove it. And then I drove it outside of Reykjavik. But I still consider that being able to drive within the parking lot and get the sense of how to shift gears, how to adjust the clutch, like those things are still important components of driving, even though it doesn't encompass the whole scope of what it means to drive
Right.
freeways,
So
street
if you
parking.
hesitated to go beyond the parking lot, would you
Mm,
still say you know how to drive a car?
then no.
Okay. So why do you think your brain went to initially saying, well, yeah, kind of, technically, that's true.
I think because you are going to make an analogy between what I'm doing and the driving the car in a safe, enclosed place with no other vehicles.
As always, your awareness is on point. Okay. You don't lack the ability to be very aware. You don't lack the ability to be smart and like to make connections, which is oftentimes the case with like when I'm working with like very headstrong clients. I don't mean like stubborn. I mean like just very good at using their heads.
In my head. Yeah.
Correct.
Hmm.
There is a false positive, a false confidence in the ability to use their head. And it
Hmm.
comes from the fact that the false confidence comes from misunderstanding knowledge and understanding. So, what you know, but you can't really show, you actually just understand, is what you
Mm.
know and can show consistently, reliably that you actually know. So, you think about driving a car, it's not that hard to drive a car. You got two pedals for the most part if you're not driving standard, right? And a wheel. Stop, go, turn. Not that difficult to understand. But knowing how to actually drive a car, now you're getting into the deep experience rooted in results of like I can change lanes, I can get onto a highway, I can drive to, long distances, I can navigate traffic, I can navigate what like there is a whole host of real world results that are way beyond the scope of understanding.
Hmm.
Okay. The Achilles heel to smart people that, again, have generally academically excelled by the use of their heads is their heads become this crutch where they keep chasing more understanding while thinking it's actually knowledge.
Hmm.
And then in turn, getting into these anxious doom loops of like, why is it I know so much, but I can't actually show it? That's because so much of your effort is spent and so much of your self-esteem is spent on understanding versus knowing, which has a direct component of showing a particular result.
Mhm.
So it's like you know a lot about your patterns, you know a lot about what you need to do to be successful in your coaching, but you know very little because you hesitate to implement those things and you hesitate to step into the spaces we actually have to show it. Meaning, as long as I keep driving on the parking lot and I learn more about what driving on highways is like, that's fine. Maybe I just need to learn more about like what driving on different highways is like. Then I can go and
Mhm.
actually drive.
Mhm.
So what lands for you with all of that?
I have decided not to pay for any more courses until at least next year because I am aware of this. I'm good at collecting knowledge and information, and I think at this point it's enough. I don't need more. I just need to actually believe that I can implement it successfully. So I'm with you on the moving from the parking lot onto the highway analogy.
Perfect. And what is involved in that process?
Yeah, this is where I'm not sure.
Okay.
Trusting in myself would be a big component of it for me.
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part. What about yourself?
Trusting.
Trusting. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Trusting in yourself. How do you define trusting yourself?
Ooh, getting rid of that chatter that says, "Are you sure? Can you do it? Is that a good idea? What are other people going to think?" And just going ahead anyway.
Hmm. So both getting rid of the chatter and navigating your way out of the doubt that comes.
Mhm.
Hmm. What else?
I would say not caring so much about what I think other people are going to say or do, because ultimately, who really cares? It's not their lives, it's mine.
Hmm. Okay. So trusting myself, getting rid of the chatter, not caring what other people think. What else?
Just being able to go outside of my comfort zone and stretch it and implement things that I know would be helpful that I've been putting off, and not worrying about whether it's done perfectly or like everything is only a one-time opportunity, knowing that other things can come up. It doesn't have to be exactly right the first time around, and being okay with that.
Hmm. Okay. What else?
I'm running out of things.
Okay. Fair enough. That's a great list. As always, awareness on point. Okay. So trusting myself, not caring about what other people think, going outside my comfort zone, implementing things that I've been avoiding or essentially putting off, not worrying about what other people think and also if it's perfect or not. So what is the commonality amongst all of those things?
I'd say getting out of my head.
Okay. And into what?
Ooh, more in my intuition or my heart, whatever it is, my gut.
Okay. As a what? Source of information, as a source of inspiration, as a source of guidance, as what?
I would say more for guidance. I think the head component is good for inspiration and motivation, but I think the guidance part is sometimes what I ignore. Like, I
Mhm.
should keep working even though I don't have any energy. I'm just going to keep working and then I feel terrible later. Or this person seems like a great fit for a client, except for like all of these things, but it would still be nice to have some income, and
Mhm.
then regretting it.
So would it be accurate that that's also trusting yourself?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So also, right, listening to intuition in terms of trusting yourself. So
Mm.
that doesn't really answer the original question. Like what, yeah, I got to get out of my head and into what?
Right. I don't know, intuition or trust or something.
So look at it this way. Is trust a mental thing or is that a feeling thing?
More a feeling thing.
Hmm. Okay, so we go down that list. Not caring about what other people think. Is that a thinking thing or a feeling thing?
Both, but yeah, definitely feel it in my body as stress.
Okay. So in terms of what do I need to move past these patterns, do you need more thinking about that or do you need more worrying about the feeling part of that?
The feeling part. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go down the other list, right? I got to get it outside of my comfort zone. Feeling thing or thinking thing?
Ooh, feeling.
Yeah. Implementing things that I've been avoiding. Feeling thing or thinking thing?
I see the theme now. Feeling.
Yeah. Right. Not worrying about whether things are perfect before I launch. Thinking thing or feeling thing?
Yeah, feeling.
Okay. So go back to the original question. What is the through line between all of the things you need to do to move forward?
Get out of my head and more into my feelings.
Okay. Yes. And what do you think is missing for you? So, A, this is the first thing that I've actually asked you that you weren't able to have a clear answer on right away. Right. It's like I know about all these things. I'm so aware about all these things.
Mhm.
And this is the first thing that quote unquote stumped you. Okay. So, what does that tell you?
I couldn't logic my way out of it. And I've been probably avoiding the feelings at this point.
Correct. Because all of the solutions to the problems that you basically we initially went through, okay, well, what are the actual issues you need to do? Like, well, what are the things I need to do to solve all of these blocks? And we went down that list, right? So trusting myself, not caring what other people think, comfort zone, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. It took multiple tries to get you to recognize that these are not thinking problems. These are feeling problems.
Mhm.
Okay. So first things first, you can't change what you can't see. You are now able to see that the root of my issues are feeling problems. For people that have very high intelligence, they end up always in the man with the hammer problem. For the man with the hammer, everything becomes a nail.
Mhm.
So for people that are good at thinking, emotional problems start to look like thinking problems. So what do? You get really good at understanding your emotions without ever really knowing what to do with them. Okay, going
Mhm.
back to the car analogy, you get really good at understanding what it takes to drive on the highway without ever actually leaving the parking lot. So again, before I go on, what lands for you there?
I think that's what has attracted me to more somatic tools because I have avoided being in my body for so long, and the feelings are, yeah, generally uncomfortable. There are definitely times, many times that I can recall more like out of body experiences. Not that I can see myself, but just I don't remember being there when they were really stressful. And I think that dissociation is because the feelings were quite overwhelming and who wants to stay there? So yeah.
110%.
Hmm.
Yes. And disassociation is a common one,
Hmm.
right? Why? Because it takes you away from your body and
Hmm.
puts you in some version of your head, even if that's just like my head is blank and like I don't experience nothing, right? So that is basically symptomatic of I lack the capacity to be with my emotions. I lack awareness on what tool is actually needed for the job, which is I can't actually outthink emotional problems. But if all I got are like head tools, I'm going to keep trying to outthink emotional problems. Okay. Which means you haven't had as much practice to be with your emotions, know what to do when they come up, know what to do preemptively to process the triggers that come up. Basically, your intellectual skill set is way up here, your emotional skill set is way down here. And all of your efforts have been in collecting more intellectual knowledge, but you've neglected your actual emotional capacity, emotional intelligence, and ability to process and heal those emotions. Because at the core of all of your problems, they're all emotional problems. They're not
Mm-hmm.
intellectual, which is why you're on this hamster wheel of like, I keep doing things, not really doing things. You're kind of doing avoidance things. So my identity is someone who's rooted in this level of like emotional ability. So again, before I go on, what's landing there?
I don't know you very well, but, or should I say, and I understand what you're saying. I don't know. It's bringing up more imposter syndrome for me. It's uncomfortable. And I'm like, I actually do emotional processing, just perhaps not targeted the right way or enough or whatever. So, yeah, it makes me irritated.
Beautiful. So A, I acknowledge you for sharing that because it's good to have that out. Two, if you feel like anything that I'm saying at any point is bullshit, by all means, feel free to call me out. I have no issues with that because ultimately I want to make sure that my worldview, with which I see you, which I know is limited because it's the first time we've met, is actually accurate. So by all means, if anything is inaccurate or off, feel free to correct me.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Is there anything that like needed correcting from what I just shared?
That I actually do emotional processing and body-based emotional processing,
Oh,
but clearly it's not landing. It's not enough.
okay. Maybe. So when you say you do emotional processing, what is your definition of that?
Ooh, clearing negative emotions, talking about what I need to learn from them, and sometimes screaming, sometimes stomping my feet, pounding the pavement on a run, doing things that move the feelings through my body.
Hmm. Perfect. So I allow emotions to process when they come up. I don't stuff them down. Okay. Beautiful. Absolutely necessary skill to have. And going back to what you said and going back to the original identity piece, right? What I think, feel, and act is essentially my identity. If I keep having to try and work and hype myself up to do the things that my business requires to move to the next level, am I actually being the person who can do that, even though I still do these emotional processing things, right? So it's not necessarily I am lacking in this thing, I'm not doing it good enough. It's are you facing in the directions you need to face? Do you have, like, is there a different skill set that is needed than just allowing the emotions to pass? Because clearly, if that was what you needed, probably would have done it, right? One of the other filters I always use in my coaching is like, you can't be triggered if you're not loaded.
Oh, I was
But
gonna say I was definitely triggered, so it's good that I was triggered.
yeah, 110%. I mean, this is even in my relationship. Like, me and my partner, we always have a thing of like, I want you to trigger me. Why? Because I that is where I am not free, that is where I still have something loaded. It's
Hmm.
not fun, but in the end, I know it's going to be useful, right? And it works both ways with her as well, right? Like it's an agreement we both have.
Hmm.
So in this instance, it's not downplaying your efforts to get to this point. It's celebrating that this got you here, but then it's also recognizing that what's going to get you there, that kind of business adage of like, what got you here won't get you there. It also applies to identity and leadership, emotional capacity, action capacity, all of those other things, right? Nervous system, etc. So what's landing for you with all of that?
I appreciate your acknowledgement. And yeah, I think you're right. You're not downplaying effort, which I think is where I took offense, but recognizing that whatever it is, some kind of up leveling will require different things than what I've used to get to here to this point.
So outside of the things we talked about, right? So trusting myself, not caring what other people think, getting outside of my comfort zone, etc. If you look at all of those things, okay, who would you be if you didn't have those limiting patterns?
Oh, someone more free and authentically myself.
Okay. And what do you mean when you say free?
I think the feelings of, I don't know, tightness, tension, whatever stress would be less present. So more freedom of movement, more availability to think about things that weren't really such a big deal as I'm making them out to be.
Mm-hmm. So less stress. He said
Mhm.
more ability to move, meaning what?
Oh, sometimes I just feel like my whole body gets so tense.
Okay. So going back to even the whole processing emotions, right? If your body's getting tense, you're probably suppressing something that needs out, which is fine, right? That's kind of that I would say is like, okay, well, probably being more consistent with the skills you already have,
Hmm.
right, would be a thing. But if you're looking at all of these patterns from the perspective of your business, right? If
Mm.
I did trust myself, if I did step out of my comfort zone consistently, if I
Hmm.
stop playing small, okay, like who would you be inside of your business without these limiting patterns?
Oh, I think I would be a much more effective and powerful coach
Mm-hmm.
and actually offer my services to people, actively do that instead of sending them elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, I wouldn't be afraid to go to say how much I wanted to charge or pitch to different opportunities, wondering, do I have enough experience? Do I have enough whatever to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it would just be a more empowered place to live from.
Mm-hmm. And how would it feel to be and live from that space?
Lighter, easier, less stressful.
And do you think you could create the business that you wanted from that space?
Oh, more easily for sure.
Mm-hmm. So more easily or in general?
In general, I still think it's going to be work, but yes,
I mean, the work is unavoidable. Like you can't negate the actions needed,
no.
right? But it's like you're already taking a lot of action.
Hmm.
It's just the action is rooted in avoidance,
Right.
right? Of which more learning is also avoidance. Because if
Hmm.
we go back to what is the block to the actions you need to take, well, trusting myself, caring too much what other people think, not stepping outside my comfort zone, not implementing not implementing all the things effectively that I've learned, right? Always. worrying about things being perfect, always worrying about, is this the right time to like do this, overthinking. All of those are actions. They are just actions that drive energy down.
Mm,
So, like, even the whole tension thing, I'm not surprised because so much of your action is like, stop, move slowly. Like, it's just like there's nowhere for all
mhm.
this energy to flow.
Makes
So,
sense.
yeah. What, anything else you wanted to add to that, or what lands for you with that?
Well, I'm happy with that.
Okay. So, when you look at kind of mapping out where you are at right now, okay, and what are the blocks that are standing in your way, does this give you deeper awareness around that?
Yeah, it was helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else that you feel like is outstanding?
More just curiosity about what techniques do you even mean to try to do this energy movement or the energy processing, whatever it
Mhm.
is.
So remember I said, okay, you can't be triggered if you're not loaded.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you don't trust yourself, there's a part of you that's loaded there.
Mm-hmm.
When the thought of what's this person going to think, that's also me being loaded. When you avoid, that's you being loaded. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When you hesitate to go outside your comfort zone, that's you being loaded. When you don't know how to separate the feeling from the right effective action, meaning how do I feel hesitation and fear and also do the action that my business needs? Okay, that's now a capacity issue, right? So in many ways, it's like you need both. So on the loaded side of things, it's always looking at how is your history sabotaging your present. At the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, you talked about you're aware of a lot of these beliefs, you're aware a lot about your history. Okay, cool. Where I think you're lacking is translating the awareness into safety inside of your body
Mm-hmm.
to do the things you need to do, i.e., your subconscious right now resists the actions that your business needs to move to where you want it to go. Okay.
Gotcha.
Going back to the identity piece, the reason you don't have to do any work to not steal is because no part of your subconscious is at conflict with your conscious understanding that you are an honest person.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that your business requires action wise is in direct opposition to the inherent beliefs, conscious or not, that your nervous system and your body holds around what is actually safe for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And a lot of this, as you mentioned, is probably rooted in people pleasing. I just don't think you've actively done the work on this piece or haven't had somebody facilitate this to allow yourself to heal the past or stop sabotaging your future, or rather your present. Okay. Because then you clear the space of like, okay, now I'm not acting from my past. I'm not acting most likely from these like childlike parts of me. I can
Mm-hmm.
actually let my adults do the decisions that need to be done without that inner resistance. Okay. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is your emotional capacity to step into courage is a lot less than your intellectual understanding of like what courage and where it's needed. So in that way, it's like you just haven't actually put in enough reps. You don't have, I don't know enough about you to say like what exactly part of courage, but it's like I haven't been in containers enough. I've been pushed enough in this direction. There's a lot of different reasons why, but it's like we often think like I need the confidence to like step outside my comfort zone. It actually works the other way around. You actually need the courage first to step outside the comfort zone, get the reps in, and then that gives you the competency that you have actual natural non-bravado confidence. What you're
Yeah.
actually lacking is self-belief. That's what people mistaken as confidence. Like it's self-belief that gives you courage. Then you go into stepping in, doing the thing, and then over time that turns into legitimate confidence, which is where in the whole car thing, I know how to drive. I can show it versus I understand how to drive. I can only show it on a parking lot. Business wise, all of your emotional capacities are at the parking lot level. That's why it's so hard to get onto the other side. So I know that was a long-winded answer, a bunch of different things. What's landing for you? What is it?
Oh, it's good. I'm just taking it in.
Okay, perfect. So anything else from that?
I don't think so.
Okay, fair enough. So in that case, why don't you close us off and let everybody know where to find you, who's the best person to find you? Like, floor is yours for that.
Actually, I'm like, well, I actually hope nobody finds me after this because it's kind of embarrassing. If they listen to all of this and then they want to find me, I don't know if I want to talk to them.
I mean, I would just say this is probably yourself now talking, that you are in good company with regards to the people that have been on here.
Uh,
But listen, I will leave it to you. Like if you want to continue to play small after this conversation, that's your choice. But this is my invitation for you to just own it, and play big, regardless of the internal feed.
Okay, sure. You can find me on Instagram. It's CSZMAH, or on Facebook at Charlotte Ma. If you want, I have a Facebook group where I do weekly trainings. There are a lot of neurosomatic tools, things to calm down stress in your nervous system, and that's called Connected Clinicians, but it's open to whoever wants to join, whether you work in healthcare or not. It's fun.
Awesome. Okay. Well, as always, we'll include all of that in the show notes. Charlotte, thank you very much for being on. I know it's not the easiest of things to be on here, but I applaud your courage to actually do this. So thank you for that. And for everybody listening, we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks.